Letter to a Narcissist, Part 7 by Dana Elizabeth. Please take a moment, like, and subscribe before we begin. Flashback, the discarding phase with Stanley. It appeared as if Tanya was declining in her overall health. Stanley had convinced her that she needed to see a psychiatrist, and she did. She was scheduled once per week with a local psychiatrist and a therapist. She was now taking prescribed medication and not the street pills she used to self-medicate with. The alcohol and cocaine had slowed down drastically. Stanley had actually called Child Protective Services on Tanya one month when the children were still in high school because she caught him cheating with yet another man. In his attempt to control the narrative, he called the agency and requested that she be tested, and they found a small trace of cocaine and alcohol in her system. Amanda was not only Tanya's friend, but she was also a co-worker, and she knew she had to help her friend. Although Tanya had relinquished her position with the state, she still knew people in high places. The supervisor over the program was one of those people. Amanda wrote a letter with supporting videos and documentation to show that Stanley was abusive. She asked the agency if there were other options other than removing the children from the home, and there were, which was therapy. Stanley was a low, slimy snake, and he would go as far as to separate Tanya and her children at the time just to cover up his homosexual tendencies. It was all becoming too much. Therapy was an awesome tool that Tanya didn't realize would be so helpful in her life. Stanley's 2-week work trips turned into months. Then eventually, he got his own place separate from the home they shared. This was acceptable because according to him, it was a workspace. He even had the place listed as a business for tax purposes. Some months, he wouldn't even come to the home they shared. He was strategically discarding Tanya and her children. The clothes were disappearing from the closets, and he stopped contributing to any bills in the home as well. It wasn't always just men that Stanley cheated with. It was women too, but like Tanya, they were just a facade. Stanley had this player mentality, and he honestly thought everyone, male or female, wanted him. Tanya used to just shake her head because, yes, she loved him, but he was not all that to her anymore. His ego was out of control. The money and overall success had gone to his head, and he thought he was her god. While Tanya was rebuilding herself with the help of therapy, Stanley was out building a double life. She didn't barely recognize him some days. He even stopped eating her cooking. He would come by the house maybe twice a month just to annoy her. He would attempt to brainwash her by reminding her that their partnership was for life, and if she left him, she would be seen as disloyal. All the indiscretions were swept under a rug that had a huge lump in the middle. The lump represented the 5 years of lies, abuse, and manipulation. Stanley even stopped being sexually active with Tanya. The whole relationship was a joke. She was like a stuffed little bear he won at the fair, and he played with her when he wanted to. She was totally okay with the lack of sex, though, especially after Stanley gave her a sexually transmitted disease once. It was curable, but she still kept sleeping with him. Life was becoming miserable for Tanya, but in therapy, she was becoming stronger. She began to have more open and honest conversations about her perspective on life's events. She began to ask for help. Her therapist made it very clear that she was in fact being abused. Tanya was also told that staying with Stanley could end fatal, and that if she wanted to leave and be successful, she needed to create an escape plan, and that's exactly what she did. Tanya quit taking the prescription pills. She joined the gym and began a workout. She changed her diet, and most importantly, she began to seek God. She didn't know much about religion, and Stanley never prayed or mentioned God in the home as well. She had a Bible, but it was just for looks, as if set and collected dust on her bookshelf. She wanted to learn how to pray, and she wanted to get closer to God and the Holy Spirit. The Spirit was calling her forward to change her life. Tanya knew if she wanted better, she had to become better. She began ignoring Stanley. Her energy was very valuable, and she made a deal with herself to take care of herself. She worked on loving herself at the cost of sacrificing her bond with Stanley. He noticed the changes, but he didn't care because with Tanya not paying attention to him, he could be a sneaky, nasty freak in peace. He no longer had to gaslight her anymore because she was no longer making accusations or arguing with him. She pulled all of her energy back from Stanley and began to focus on her new life. She made a vision board. Tanya's vision board had her dream home on an island with a yacht in the water. Tanya glued her favorite car, the Aston Martin, to the board as well. She wrote inspirational quotes around her dream home and cars. She even wrote out her top 5 goals. Stanley was so oblivious, he assumed when she wasn't calling his phone that she was upset or depressed. He would text and nag her from time to time, but in her mind she was already single. Tanya began looking at places where she could retreat and get some healing. In therapy, she learned that you cannot heal where you were hurt. Her plans were 6 months deep before she decided to execute. She was so nervous, but the closer she became with God, the more strength she gained. She learned how to pray, and she learned what to ask for. She knew that God had forgiven her for all her sins, but she also knew he had a calling on her life. She could no longer serve a man, especially one like Stanley. She prayed to God to send her a solid husband who knew God and knew how to lead. She still wanted a family, but she knew that would require her to destroy this fake foundation she built with Stanley. The whole situation was unrequited and played out. Tanya knew if she continued her life like this, that she was single-handedly ripping her legacy to shreds. Along her healing journey, she even ventured into a new business where she catered food. She loved cooking, and the extra money she was earning from catering the events were assisting in funding her new lifestyle that she had been preparing and planning. Amanda and a few other friends all knew her goals. All hands were on deck as Tanya planned her escape from Stanley. There were cameras all over the home that were sound sensitive, and he watched Tanya's every move, so she was very mindful how she talked and prepared to leave. This was going to be her final act, and Stanley had no clue. She moved around and did her normal daily tasks, making sure to not disrupt the natural flow of her day. He would text and say mean and negative comments to her, which was also very normal. He was becoming used to her silence, although he wasn't fond of it. He was very codependent on her energy, and the silence was weighing heavily on him. He told her he wanted her to stop seeing therapists because he didn't see any signs of progress. Tanya didn't argue. She just told him that she would stop her sessions once she came back from the girls' trip. The girls' trip was the new topic that stayed on Tanya's lips. The whole time Stanley was unaware that the girls' trip was code for Tanya's escape. Amanda went as far as to create an itinerary and invitations that were mailed to the home. Stanley monitored everything, including the mail. The whole house was wired electronically with smart capabilities. Tanya was so used to Stanley always watching her that she got used to it. She made sure she walked through the house only talking about the trip. She wanted everything to go as planned. If Stanley thought for 1 second that Tanya was leaving, he would definitely put a stop to her plans. He agreed to the girls' trip because he knew in his mind she would be coming back. He also felt in his mind that he had Tanya trained like a dog. In fact, she once heard him on the phone bragging to a family member that Tanya was his forever and she wasn't going anywhere. He pontificated about that as if she was an object. It was sickening. She moved in silence, and she knew to win this one-sided game that she didn't even know she was playing, she had to become just as strategic as Stanley. The day of the departure was rehearsed multiple times. She knew Stanley would make sure that he was home that day. He seemed as if he was taking inventory of what she was packing. She played it cool and kept her items island-specific. She didn't even take her children's baby photos because she knew that would set off an alarm and be a red flag, and he would have suspected something. She had already communicated her plans to her children and the whole family. They knew the plan and they had expressed to Tanya how excited they were for her new beginning away from Stanley. The trauma had become too much. It had to stop. Tanya played her role and left the home unharmed, which was the goal. Stanley was clueless in all actuality. He didn't really care. Tanya was just there for show. It was a fake family dynamic he had to use to cover up his trifling double life. As she pulled away, she knew the cord had been cut. She was free, and Stanley's chapter has ended. She left a letter in his drawer. It was the same drawer where she found the other woman's underwear. She was being sarcastic about the placement of the letter. She didn't care if he read the letter. She just knew she had to tell her side of the story once and for all. He would never allow her to speak. His family, some of her family, and even her friends had been turned against her. Stanley's lies spread like wildfire, and he burned everything down in Tanya's world. He went to great depths to assassinate her character. The most painful part about it all was that she genuinely cared for the man. She finally realized that he was mentally unstable and confused. To the community, he appeared to be well, but behind closed doors, he was a monster, a spoiled little boy who hated women and constantly fantasized about sexual behavior with men. He went around collecting hearts of everyone. He didn't love himself, and he wanted Tanya to feel exactly what he felt. He constantly changed the narrative to benefit himself. He could rarely recapitulate the facts. The facts were too ugly. The whole life was ugly. Tanya just wanted better days. She had no intention of ever going back. She didn't want to speak to shared friends or family. She allowed herself to be okay with everyone believing the lies and the twisted illusions. The letter was going to serve as her voice. She even sent herself a copy to read on the plane. As she opened her eyes from her nap, she took a deep breath and opened the file on her tablet, and tears began to roll down her face as she began to read the letter. The letter read, "I left, and I'm never coming back. We have relocated and we no longer wish to have any contact with you. You can do what you wish with our belongings, as I've already started building a new life. I honestly don't care what you feel. This letter is about me for a change, Stanley. You were very selfish and ignorant. You ignored me for 6 long years, and you have no idea how happy I am to finally be at distance from you, and even happier to know that I will never see your face again in my life. This so-called life we built has been my biggest nightmare. It felt like a never-ending story. All of the lies and nonsense. I accept full accountability for allowing you to play in my face as long as you did. I honestly believe that one day you would have poured into us the way we poured into you. I'm not going to even try and tell you how you need to fix anything, because it's obvious you don't think anything is broken. Or maybe you do. I just don't care anymore. I'm numb to you and numb to the facade and the mask. Your questionable sexuality is just one of the issues. I pray you give the next person in your life the opportunity to choose if they want to be triangulated with multiple people all the time. I want to get married and be happy. You don't align with any of that. I could have blasted all of your little dark, dirty secrets, but I'm better than that. And besides that is your responsibility. I am no longer going to allow someone like you to lead me into a ditch filled with concrete. I felt stuck with you. You never motivated me. All you did was drain me and give my energy to others. You are so abusive. Some days the verbal and mental abuse was so bad, I wish you had just punched me in the face, because that's how the blows felt. I was feeling very low at one point. I'm strong now, and I'm not scared of you. In fact, I see now that you are a coward. You never loved me or my children. I understand that your motive was only to have someone help you build a lifestyle you couldn't provide for yourself. You are lazy and a cheater. You also want to take credit for everyone else's work, and I will not allow you to do that. I always challenged you, and that's why you work so hard to paint me to be some crazy delusional liar. You were always projecting. I saw that you were just a scared little boy trying to act like his pathetic ass father who abused people. I have no clue why your parents hurt you as a child, but you need help. All the self-medication is going to catch up to you. I'm sure you're rolling your eyes in denial, and guess what? I still don't care. You almost made me not want to live anymore, but then I realized that was your goal. God covered me. I will never give you that satisfaction. I love myself and I love my children. You can never break me because you didn't make me. I am a child of God and He will always protect me. Keep all the money in the joint accounts. Hell, keep everything. I am so glad I never married you. I thank God for all of your rejection because I know now that it was truly His protection. There is no need to try and reach out to anyone in my family. They all know the truth about you. I have changed my numbers and my emails. I left all the passwords to the utility accounts on the desk. Anything else, just figure it out on your own. My car is being picked up tomorrow to be shipped. You don't have to do anything. They have all the instructions. I just want you to know that God loves you. I pray you find yourself. Goodbye. Tanya had no clue why she was crying. She just got so overwhelmed with emotions. There was so much she didn't say in that letter. She knew that sometimes things were better left unsaid. Stanley made his bed and he had to lay in it. A feeling of relief came over her as she realized that she had finally done what she had been so fearful to do all these years. She left her abuser and she was granted the opportunity to start a brand new life. The trip was just the beginning. She had plans to stay for 3 weeks and she would return to the States. Her new home was already paid for and awaiting her arrival. This was such a foreign experience for her, but she was ready to learn and more so ready to grow. Change is not always easy. Tanya was strong and resilient, and winning was the only option. She closed the laptop and set up more enthusiastically as she heard the pilot announce that the plane was shortly approaching their destination. Tanya was renewed. She had left her emotional baggage back there somewhere behind her. Stanley's burdens were no longer attached to her. It was time for some well-needed healing. The letter was the only closure she needed. The end. Please like, comment, and subscribe for more short stories.